Alright, next plugin, Blue Cat's Phaser. I used it here on a synth track, which sounds like that. Let's solo that without the phaser. It's a pretty aggressive synth actually. Let's bring it in. So it goes from left to right, really spacey sounding. Again without. Gain input knob, you got different stages, sounds like that. Let's bring def a little bit up. And the rate. Again the spread. Try and wet mix knobs and feedback. Let's try some presets again. Maybe let's try here kind of like a chorusy effect. And again, my preset here. Without. And with. Let's bring all the other instruments in. Okay, so that's the phaser plugin. Okay, now let's move on here on the strings section. Let's solo them, just those 3 strings here. And I wanted to bring the low strings here. Let's solo that, the bass a little bit up. And I used here the triple EQ, which looks like that. And again, from Blue Cat of the freeware bundle, it's actually pretty simple. You can, for example, toggle just with this interface, or you can also just use the knobs. I like both, so you can actually see what you're doing. Pretty simple. It's just a 3-band EQ actually. You got the overall gain knob here. Then you got a low frequency knob as well as a mid and also a high frequency, right? And with the crossover here, which is that, you can actually change the frequency where you want to have the crossover and also the Q. Okay, so let's see how that sounds. Let's maybe bring it a little back down here as it was. And with. So that's without. So it really opens up now. Let's bring the other ones in. Maybe a little bit less here. with all the other tracks. Okay, so that's the triple EQ. It's actually really easy to use and it does indeed sound great. Alright, so now let's move on to the master bus section. I want to show you now the 3 last plugins here, which starts here with the frequency analyzer from Blue Cat again. So this is the last Blue Cat's bundle freeware plugin, which consists of 6 plugins. And this is a standard frequency analyzer called Freak Analyst 2. And it's actually a pretty useful tool, having that on a master bus. So you can actually see what the different frequencies are doing, and so you have the visuals as well to your audio. Let's start just right here and play a little bit of the song. So this is now in the average setting. As you can see the average peaks here. You can also change just to the max mode. As well to right channel and left channel, or both together. Let's go back to average. And here on the transform section here, you can change the precision and also the speed of the frequency analyzer. So this is a very broad and overall setting. You can really go into detail here. You can also change the envelope of the curve. And the release, so it's really slow now. As well as the peak reset. So again, very useful if you have that on a bus, so you can see what your frequencies with the bass and especially high frequency can do. There are also presets, for example, like a high-end or a low-end zoom. So you can see just from 5,000 Hertz up to 20,000, as well as, for example, low-end zoom. So you can see what the low frequencies are doing. So that's a pretty useful tool there. So BC Freak Analyst 2. Okay, the next plugin is actually a really fun one, and it's a older plugin that IZotope actually released now for 64-bit. Was just for 32 bits, and Logic actually doesn't work with that anymore. So they updated it finally, and here it is, IZotope the vinyl, where you can actually emulate kind of like a old record player, like 33 or 45 RPMs, and you have many different features here, like mechanical noise, the wear. When you have old vinyls, probably know how that sounds. Can also set electrical noise, the dust, the scratches with different amounts, and the warp depth. So when it doesn't run consistent, you have a little bit of wow and wobble in it. Input and output gain, can also set it to mono, and the different frequency waves for the warp model, and also the year, for example, where you might have less bass frequencies and high frequencies on those earlier models up to the 2000s. So just have here a really broad setting. Let's play a little bit of the song. Now let's bring it in. So you can hear a little bit of mechanical noise and for example, when you have now headphones on, you really hear them, like the dust and also a little bit of a mechanical noise. So that's without and with. So let's bring that up a little bit. You can hear it pretty good. And for example, the where. And the electrical noise. So really buzzing sound. The dust. We can set actually the amount, so how often it occurs. As well as scratches. So it sounds like a broken vinyl or a broken record player. And the warp path. Different models here. You can also spin it down. So you might use it as a creative effect. And back on. '30s model, 50s, 60s, 70s. Bass comes back again, and 2000. You can also change the RPM. And switch it to mono. And a bypass. So you might use that maybe not completely on a whole bus. For example, like on certain tracks you might have an intro that you really want to have this old vinyl style recording, so you can use that for that, or on a bridge section, for example, like on vocals. You can make kind of like a telephone effect when you push it down to the 30s or 50s. So creative tool, it's actually kind of fun to play around with that. And yeah, again, it's free. That's the IZotope vinyl. Okay, and now, last but not least, a limiting plugin. As you can see, I switched now to a kind of like a mastering session here. I exported the track, and I have now here on the track the limiting plugin, which is the limiter number 6. As you can see, many different options. You get a compressor section, get a peak limiter, a high frequency limiter, a clipper, and a protection circuit or section here with many different knobs and features. So I suppose that this limiter was intended for mastering or for the mix bus. You might want to try it out also on different tracks, but I'm going to use it here just on the mixdown track. So I'm going to pretend that I'm doing kind of like a mastering limiting here. So let's start off now just with the limiter off, and then I'm going to engage it. Keep in mind, get a little bit louder now. So maybe let's wait till we are on the first verse here. Now with. So we are limiting to negative 0.2 with the intersample limiting on, so we don't have any intersampling peaks there. And maybe let's turn off all the different circuits here and just use now the compressor section, all right? That's without. You can also set it to MS mode. So what we got here is a gain, a ratio, attack, and release knob, so pretty standard like on a compressor. Ratio from 1 to 1 up to 6 to 1. And you got the release from 0.05 to 2 seconds and 0.2 up to 2 seconds here with the release. So I used here a fairly kind of slow attack and a faster release. Let's push a little bit more on the ratio. So it's actually pretty forgiving. Without. With. Okay, so that's the compressor section. Now let's also engage the peak limiter. I got here threshold gain, and you can change from a brick wall limiter to a soft AMS mode, so mid-side, and a multiband. You got different types here, A, 1, 2, 3, and C. I don't exactly know what they actually do, but we can later on switch between those. Can also link and unlink it, and different speed sections, modes here. All right. That's mid-side. Brick wall limiter kind of feels a little bit distorted. And now let's also engage the high frequency limiter. Let's move on to the clipper here. You got here, again, threshold gain. You can set the knee here and multiband MS or normal mode. So you kind of get a little bit of a saturation if you push that a little further above the threshold. Now it starts kicking in. Can get quite severe, as you can hear. So you have to really be careful with that, not to overdo it. Can get pretty nasty, I think. But just a little bit, so 3 or 4 is quite okay. And now, last one is the actual output section, which is here named the protection. You have here an output knob and a ceiling, and normally when you want to master a track, you want to set a certain ceiling so that the signal doesn't go above that and you don't clip to 0 dBFS. You might want to try, for example, like -0.02 or -0.05, depending how loud you want it. And here you can also set the intersampling protection to precise or fast, so you don't actually get any peaks or distortion, digital distortion there. So let's see how that sounds. So that's with the limiter off, again on. So this was just a very quick kind of limiting here. I actually won't do that kind of limiting on a mastering track, but just to show it, I did a little bit more here and emphasized a little bit like the clipper section. So maybe let's go here to some of the presets. Maybe let's go here to the mix bus. Let's push it a little bit. Go to mastering 1 here. So without the clip, it's actually pretty clean sounding, so you have to be really careful with that option here. But overall, very, very useful limiter. Might try it on my mastering tracks myself in the future. And again, it's a free plugin, and for that, it's actually really great. All right, so those are the 10 free plugins. I think they're actually really great as they are free plugins, and they do sound really good. I hope that I could give you some new ideas. In the description below are the download links, of course, so you can directly click on it and download and install it. And yeah, so that's basically it. Thanks for watching again, and as always, happy recordings, and see you in the next video.